We started this yesterday, and I'd forgotten to record it, but basically what we focused on is if I type in the square root of a negative number in my calculator, what does it tell me? It gives me an error, no real answer, right? Because it's negative. So we've got to be able to calculate with square root of negative numbers because they honestly show up all the time in real life. Architecture, electricians use complex numbers. This is actually something that people use in real life. It's not just some magic thing that we do in math too. Whenever I take the square root of a negative number, I can rewrite it as the square root of -1 times that number. And we said the square root of -1 equals what? I. So that square root of -1 is I. The square root of 16 is 4. And remember we talked about putting I at the end, kind of like we're used to seeing X at the end. We're doing a little sum up just to freshen your memories. And then this is what we spent the majority of the time doing yesterday, simplifying radicals, right? If you see the negative, what do you have to have? I. And then we had to factor it out and simplify it. All right, so I is I. I usually give you a whole lot of theory here, but I don't think I'm going to. There are only 4 values that I can be when it's raised to an exponent. I squared is -1. I cubed is -I. And I to the 4th is 1. Now, clear back when I was in Algebra 2, or whenever I learned about complex numbers, the way I trained myself to remember this, I knew there were 1, 2, 3, 4 options, but I said, I won, and then I knew negatives need to be in the middle. People seem to like that, so I share that every year. If that helps you memorize it, I won. You know, like you won the lottery or something, I don't know, or a new car. And then put negatives in the middle. So you will be asked today in your homework to simplify. There are a couple of different ways we can do this, and I have students that like to do it the long way every year. How many choices do we have? How many options? Only 4. This says I to the 13th. So what happens is these repeat themselves. So if this is I to the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, this would be 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So I to the 13th equals I.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. Is there an easier way to do what I just did?
Oh, yeah.
Divide. By how many? How many choices do I have? 4. So this is the next way we can do it. I can say I to the 20th divided by 4. Does it go in evenly?
Yeah.
Okay, there's 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. If it goes in evenly, all right. Could you count to 20 and get the same answer? Count to 20 and get the same answer. All right. Divide 42 by 4. It's got a remainder of 2. Good. That's what I want to know. It's got a remainder of 2. So that means 1, 2. That equals -1. Could you count to 42 and get the exact same answer? Absolutely. Some of you will choose to do that, and that's okay. Do you want to skip, or do you want to count by ones if, say, it was I raised to the 235th palace? Dividing might be your friend then. Let's learn how to do some operations on complex numbers. Did I skip anybody? I can get it in a minute. It's okay. Addition and subtraction are super friendly. Super, super, super friendly. Just treat it like a variable, like it was X. That's what we'll be doing. So, let's see, I can get rid of parentheses. 5 plus 3i plus 6 plus 7i. What are my like terms here? Okay, I know we're used to putting the variable first, but I isn't a variable and we usually put it at the end. So I'm going to combine 5 and 6 first. And I get 11, and then you guys were right. 3i plus 7i is 10i. It doesn't get friendlier than that, does it? Minus is harder. The only reason being that you forget to distribute that negative. That's the only reason it's harder. It'll trick you. But same thing. 12 minus 15 is negative 3. Negative 100i minus 99i is, there you go. These are called complex numbers because they have the real part and the imaginary part. Real part and the imaginary part. Imaginary doesn't mean pretend in math. It just means it's not part of the real numbers. But did we even talk about those at the first of the year? I can't remember. Multiplication. Did anybody need that there still? I should have asked before I moved it. Okay, multiplication. Foil it out for me. Go ahead. You guys know how. Did I miss you, Ricky? Tyler. Tyler, will you hand that paper to Ricky? Right there, NASA shirt. Sorry, Ricky.
No, it's good.
Something, something. First, outside, inside, last. Did you combine your like terms? You got 10, whoa, minus 1i minus 21i squared. Okay, maybe you put that in descending order because we're used to having our squared first. I don't know. But what I need you to learn from this is, what does I squared equal? I squared equals negative 1. So over here on this problem, what does I squared equal? Negative 1. So I am going to full on substitute in that place a negative 1. That's what it says. They're side by side. Negative 21 times negative 1 is what? So now I've got 10 minus I plus 21, which equals 31 minus I. I thought you guys might like today's lesson. All right. On a multiplication like this, you always need to take care of the negative first. I can't take the square root of a negative number. I Questions? All right, when we're multiplying radicals like this, we multiply the outside numbers together and we multiply the inside numbers together. So what's I times I? -1, it is. I'm going to put I squared for just a second, but you're right, it's -1. But because this is my journal, I'm going to take it in the steps. And then I have the square root of 6 times 15, which would be 90. All right, square root of 90. Need to break it down. Give me two numbers. 45 and 2. 9 and 5. 3 and 3?
Yep.
All right, so that simplifies to, I know I've got this -1 out front. What goes out front? A 3. What stays underneath the radical? A 5 and a 2. 5 times 2 is 10. Simplify, my -1 times 3 is -3 square roots of 10. Big thing today, I squared equals what? -1. You've got to be able to simplify that. I'm going to save dividing for another day because it's a little bit more intense. So we'll start there. Your assignment should be open.